Texas ranks 6th in the nation in poultry and broiler production, with the majority of these farms located in East Texas. This puts East Texas at risk for a lot of environmental damages. But poultry farms produce a lot of people's favorite foods. So we don't want to get rid of that, just make it better and safer. To give a visual to this issue, we could fill 357,142 dump trucks full with waste from poultry farms every year. In 2023, poultry and meat farms released 1.8 million pounds of nitrogen and 241,000 pounds of phosphorus into Texas waterways. This is bad environmentally because having high levels of nitrogen and phosphorus creates an excess amount of algae growth, which will have negative effects on human and aquatic life.
If the nitrogen and phosphorus gets too high in a water body, it can cause a condition called eutrophication, where the algae essentially bloom and then die, and then when they die, they pull the oxygen out of the water, which can cause fish kills and other kinds of problems.
Dr. McBroom educated us on the fact that Nacogdoches waterways, like Lanana Creek, are sadly on this 303D list, which labels them as unclean.
There were more than 126 colony-forming units per 100 mils of E. coli bacteria on these tributaries. And so that meant they went to EPA's bad list, 303D list. And that meant that the state had to start taking some kind of action on, number one, identifying where the sources are of these bacteria, and then number two, figuring out how to address the limitations. In other words, where's the source and how do we fix it, basically, to get these streams back off of EPA's 303D list. So under the Clean Water Act, all the states are required to monitor their water bodies, and then EPA says if you don't meet this minimum standard, then it goes on the naughty list in a sense.
Rivers and lakes aren't the only concern here. The air is also being tainted with ammonia by these farms. Exposure to high levels of ammonia can affect the respiratory system. In 2018, 21% of poultry farm employees reported suffering from obstructive lung function. Since then, this number has dropped to 14%.
We have learned about these trees that have been planted in front of the poultry farm that do their best to reduce odor emissions. If you neighbor a chicken farm, you probably know better than anyone how terrible it can smell. So that is an attempt to see how well odor can be reduced.
Another thing that they also do is they have what they call heavy use areas, so typically right in front of the poultry houses, and they lay concrete slabs to prevent a lot of that from washing down and infiltrating in the soil further away. The biggest thing is converting to solar energy. A lot of chicken farmers, especially private poultry farmers, are now beginning to construct solar panels on their chicken houses, and one, that's reducing the carbon footprint, and two, it's by using other bioremediation practices to filter the air. It's helping, it's improving the air quality, as well as, of course, your face mask and things like that. So with the new technology, it's becoming amazing. It's amazing how much poultry farming is advancing in terms of reducing their footprint, their environmental footprint, as well as improving the health of not just their chickens, but also the employees that work in those houses.
After talking to these researchers and professors, they shared with us some statistics and observations to shed a deeper light on this topic, as well as misconceptions of this industry that they wish they could clear up.
When it was all said and done, the biggest single contributor, interestingly enough, was hogs. But of course, we don't really have hog farms in our area. We're not a big pig farming area. It's the wild hogs, because they're not native to this region, and their numbers have just gone through the roof in recent years. And we found, especially during the dry periods, the hogs have a tendency to want to congregate down around the water bodies, and they wallow and they defecate. Well, that's a direct source of bacteria. So in that study, we found like 7% was chicken, which actually made us feel pretty good, but wildlife contributed over half of the bacteria load, and most of that wildlife load was wild hogs. You know, when you look at that chicken farm and there's 10,000 birds inside that house, and you think to yourself, man, that's gotta be miserable. But the problem is, I'm anthropomorphizing. They're chickens. You know, think about this. That farm, the reason why those chickens grow so well, and they don't use hormones and antibiotics and that kind of stuff, but the reason why those chickens are growing so well is because they're so not stressed out. So a chicken running around in your yard is always under a little bit of stress, because it could be a hawk, or if I'm smaller, a snake, or a dog that's gonna come get me. So yard birds are always a little bit under stress. Also, it gets a little too cold, a little too warm. That puts them under stress. Maybe a little bit of stress about fighting over food. You know, chickens are fun, they'll fight over food or whatever, or water. But in that poultry farm, it's like, I don't know how to describe it, maybe like an optimum cruise ship environment. All the food you could want, perfectly safe, free from predators, no stress, just all you got to do all day is chill out, eat, and grow. The poultry industry is only continuing to grow in this region, and it's great because it's great for the economy and we all love chicken, but the environmental impacts have to be considered as well.